Hi, this is Eric from longboxreview.com, and this is Center Seat, my Star Trek podcast. Hello and welcome to this episode of Center Seat, where we'll be covering Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episodes 2 and 3, Disengage and 17 Seconds, respectively. And joining me to do that, returning to the podcast, thankfully he didn't have too much of me last time, is Captain Darrell Taylor of the Taylor Network of Podcasts. Welcome back to Darrell.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Listen, I'm the one that worries when too much of me is going on in a show, not the other way around. This is fun.
Well, you know, as I said last time, it was a highlight of my day. Well, actually, more than just that day that we talked for the recording, but then when I was editing it too, I was having so much fun just listening again back to our conversation about our love for Star Trek, and maybe perhaps a little bit of critical love for Star Trek Picard.
Oh, sure. I can't ever be the I only love it, don't say anything bad about it. No, I can look at it and be critical. I'm not a Star Wars fan. No, I'm not fighting Star Wars people. I watch Star Wars too. Sometimes they make me mad. Not mad at the people, but mad. Sometimes at just some of the stories. It's like, ooh, the season. It's like, you could have done better.
Yeah. Well, speaking of doing better, maybe we're jumping the gun, but the fine folks that run Star Trek, that create Star Trek, have been nice to us because we had a bit of Star Trek news each time now. This has only happened twice, so who knows what's going to happen next, right? But we get a bit of news right before we go to record, and this time there's some news about a new Star Trek series, whereas last time it was the announcement of the ending of Star Trek Discovery. Now we get a new series.
Well, that's why I was like, before we were going to get into a long conversation before we even recorded, because I was going to go on the whole thing of, as soon as I heard that they had canceled Discovery, I was like, oh, this means that they're doing new shows.
Well, that was quite prescient of you because, here we are.
Because that's the deal. You have about whatever the budget per studio, right? Whatever the budget is, you say to themselves, I don't know what their number is, but I think their number is like 3 shows. In production. We can only do like 3 shows in production, right? They already gave Strange New Worlds 2 more seasons already. So we have that. We have, well, actually it's more than that. Well, live action, I'm saying. Animated, I guess, is included too. But we already have Prodigy. We already have Lower Decks. I think Lower Decks is getting another season, if I'm not mistaken. If they were going to cancel it, they would have said it already, I think.
I would think so.
So they get another season. You have, and then if they want to do, they keep pushing back on because I don't know what's going on with the Section 31, but it seems to be stalling a little bit, but they keep saying they're going to do it. And then I was like, I wonder if they have to cancel something first or wait for something to end and then move a slot. So as soon as it said Discovery was ending, I was like, something's coming.
Yeah. Okay.
And so that makes, to me, that made perfect sense. I was just waiting for them to say something. And it just, this is when we got it.
Well, and it's interesting. I guess maybe I should just point this out. So what we're talking about is Star Trek Starfleet Academy is the series name, and I'll give a brief synopsis of the announcement here. But first, I wanted to just respond to what you just said, because I had read a related article to this announcement talking about basically how how Paramount is tightening the purse strings.
Yes.
And so even though there's, I don't even know, they're not showrunners, but they're kind of showrunners, the people who are in charge of Star Trek for Paramount Plus, even while they're announcing all these possibilities, while they announced Star Trek Starfleet Academy, there was notes of calling attention to the fact that there's only so much money to go around, and so they can only do so many things, like you just said. So it'd be interesting to see what comes next.
Yeah, that's a given. I mean, they want to continue to have it where there's always a Star Trek. I think they still want to continue that because it's been good for them to have a Yellowstone show and a Star Trek show going on at all year long, right?
Yeah.
And so we have that. We pretty much have that. But I think that's to maintain being able to do that, because these episodes are pretty expensive when you look at the special effects and the set and the amount of the cast. It's pretty expensive, more expensive than how Star Trek used to be, and we're doing less episodes, right? So they kind of make the special effects for this like almost movie quality, right?
That has been something I've heard other people remark about as well in regards to the modern Trek.
So I see that like you hit a level and it's like, okay, Star Trek Discovery, every time you do a certain amount of seasons, you have to re-up the contracts with all the actors, but you also have to give them raises because that's how it goes. So when you hit a certain point, I think their salaries go up even more. And so it's probably easier, and meaning cheaper, to let it end, since it's gotten pretty up there in seasons, to let it end, and then you start a new show, and you'll have probably a lot of younger actors who are not been acting as long, so they won't be as expensive.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I think that dovetails nicely into the announcement here, because this is from the announcement. Star Trek Starfleet Academy will introduce us to a young group of cadets who come together to pursue a common dream of hope and optimism. Under the watchful and demanding eyes of their instructors, they will discover what it takes to become Starfleet officers as they navigate blossoming friendships, explosive rivalries, first loves, and a new enemy that threatens both the Academy and the Federation itself. So, this is, I'm poking fun, but it sounds a little bit like 90210 in space.
Well, if we're I expect it, all right? If we're going to do a Starfleet Academy thing, it's going to be full of drama, right? There's going to be will they, won't they couples. There's going to be issues with parental influences. They're going to be mentors. You're going to pick kids to mentor. There's going to be conspiracies, because there always are, because you don't believe kids, right? So when something happens, has to be like, there's always has to be some kind of a threat or something that's happening, and the kids are trying to tell the parents, and of course parents don't understand any of that. The adults don't get it, and the kids wind up having to save the day. Right. That's pretty much on par.
Isn't that Star Trek Prodigy though? Don't we already have a show like that?
We do. Yeah, we do. But this will be, well, the thing, if they do it right, this will be the thing that people want to see. Is I want to see myself. I mean, I think other people want to see is, what do you go through in your classes? Like, what is it to have for engineers? What are their tests? What are the tests for people that want to go into command? What are the tests for students that want to go into the science and research? And we never really got to see that. They played with that a little bit in the Lower Decks episode of TNG, but we really didn't get to see, and a little bit of Lower Decks in the animated, but we really didn't get to see in the like the cool stuff, like what was Kirk doing running around? Like, how was it to be in school, in Starfleet? Like, we don't even know what year it's going to be. We don't even know if it's going to be set in the current Picard time, or it's going to be set in the far in the Discovery in the future time.
Well, you're Darrell, you're so good at this because you're just lobbing them up for me. In the official announcement, I get it's sort of like the in-universe announcement. Admission is now open to Starfleet Academy. For the first time in over a century, our campus will be reopened to admit individuals a minimum of 16 Earth years or species equivalent. So for the first time in over a century, sounds like it's going to be in the future Discovery timeline.
Right. We're assuming, and that means maybe that's why they pulled the character Tilly out.
Oh, do you think she's going to go to that?
Well, they did pull you. You have to have one character, one familiar. Like that's the other part on course for this thing too, right? When you do, because this is kind of still a spinoff of Trek, right? And if you're going to set it in the future, why would you not use some of the characters that you've, now that they're not going to be here, like they're going to be ending stories for the Discovery, why wouldn't you use some of these characters for the show? Like you got to have Captain Cool Dad. I mean, Admiral Cool Dad, right? Like he is such a mentor kind of character. Like he's such a words of wisdom kind of person, and at the same time he's the one that's going to yell at you for screwing up too. Like he's so good with that. They did this whole thing with Tilly of trying to find her place. They took her off the show, like pretty much ripped her from the show without really saying what was happening with her.
Oh, no.
We know she's going to be back in the new season because they showed she was talking. Mary Wiseman was actually did a couple of video things, like I'm on the set of the this season of the new season of Discovery and whatnot, and they showed her with the actor that plays Blue and Stamets, the actor that plays Stamets. So she's going to be on the show, but to do that, you would think part of pulling back and pushing it back like they did to give them time to not only end it, but maybe do some things to pull people to go to the next show.
That would be smart.
Right? You would think that'd be the case. I mean, I don't want to naysay because I haven't seen anything yet, but I do kind of worry about the producer Noga Landu, because I've seen some of the other things she's done. And Nancy Drew.
Yeah, that's right.
I watched Nancy Drew, and my issue with Nancy Drew is I don't know if it's like the thing what they did with that show is to take a show and totally change what the character does. Like instead of her being, she's a detective. Like that's why we had Veronica Mars, for example. That wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Nancy Drew, the character of Nancy Drew in the novels and stuff.
Right.
So why would you take Nancy Drew and take away that kind of thing of a grounded show where she solves mysteries and make it that she's solving mysteries for ghosts and talking to ghosts and supernatural stuff? And it's like, why make that a supernatural show when Nancy Drew has never been? It's like putting Nancy Drew in the future, right? Like making her like Jonah Hex, for example, like when they let Jonah Hex go to space when it's the future. It was crazy, right? Like, why would you do that? I just hope that she doesn't take away the things that people love about Star Trek and not do it like we had with 2 seasons of Picard, right? Like the stuff that people wanted, right, from Picard. It was like the person in charge of the show, the showrunner was like, oh no, you're not going to get that. We don't want you to have that. You're going to get all these new people that you don't know. We're going to leave, you're not going to see anybody except for Riker and Deanna for 2 seconds. You're going to see them. But other than that, no. We know you want to see all the other stuff, but no, we're not going to give you that. So I just hope that they don't do something like that.
Yeah. But considering that it's set in, the far future of, say even Picard, and an all new cast, largely I would assume, the sky's really the limit for what they want to do,
Yeah, we
as
can
long as
learn
it.
about Klingons now. We can learn what happened to the
Oh
Klingons
my
in the
God, yeah,
future. We can learn
yep,
about how the Romulans and the Vulcans evolved and changed. What happened to the Andorians? There's so many races that we have not even seen in Discovery since they've gone to the future. You only have so many episodes, but we haven't really, since they don't go and visit and do missions like one off missions on Discovery. We never get to see that kind of stuff,
hmm
like to catch up. So in Starfleet, we can, through the eyes of teaching these kids,
exactly, yes,
we get to see what happened with Earth. Why did it succeed? And exactly why. Like, what was the causes of it? And what happened to some of our legends, that we know from the past. Like, that would be cool too, like to
hmm
see a lot of that stuff. Like, I hope they get, it is Star Trek, right? It's okay sometimes to give fans something that they would want to see. Like, it's all right. It's not going to hurt anybody.
yeah,
You could do a good show. It's still, like, I'm not saying just go full fan service, but I mean, you can balance it and give us some of what we want to see of what happened to some of these races and stuff that we know of, and also give us new stuff with these kids. It's gonna be, I mean, from Nancy Drew, it's gonna be a lot of angst. It's gonna be a lot of teen angst going on. That's
mm-hmm.
for sure. Like, she did the Magicians. She worked on the Magicians and stuff, which I kind of like the Magicians. That wasn't a bad show. I haven't seen the other stuff, but yeah, it's gonna be a lot of Johnny loves Jane and can't love Johnny because she's all in her career, or Johnny loves Jimmy and Jimmy can't love Johnny back because he's trying to figure out, like, how to keep from failing out of school, and all this kind of stuff. And like, it'll be a lot of that.
Yeah,
And I'm cool with that. I expect it. It's school. It's college,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's supposed to be that.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm all for that kind of a
yeah,
examination,
yeah.
right? Because I've actually always wanted something like that. I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned Lower Decks earlier, both the episode in The Next Generation and of course the current animated series.
Right.
I've always wanted a Star Trek series that focused on the lower ranks of
Yeah,
on
me
a
too.
starship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of get it. I mean, Lower Decks, the animated series is, it's more about the comedy, but it's still a wonderful show. It's probably one of my favorite current Star Trek shows airing right now.
Mm-hmm.
But to have to follow these cadets as they, I'm sure that we'll have a mixture of people that have just arrived to start their career, maybe a few others that are, a year or two into it, just so we have a range of experience and whatnot, and those relationship dynamics, and we get to see how, someone becomes a legendary or support
Right.
person on a starship. So I think that's really a cool idea.
Or the person who's, we get to see why there's a Captain Liam Shaw, because
Mm-hmm.
everybody doesn't save the universe every day.
Right.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's like, there's other people that are in Starfleet that just
That
do
help
their
it.
9 to 5.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And you want to see that. And how do they, and I always wanted to also see, is like, how do they see these events when they, what do civilians look, how are they looking at these characters who have done these things, and like, what do they think of these people? Like,
Well,
are they,
you got to
do they love them?
yeah,
Huh?
you got to figure 10 forward is going to, or the 32nd century equivalent of 10 forward is going to be a set on the show
Right.
for them to hang out at, right? So,
Yeah. I love it because it's like, everybody's not going to love Riker.
well,
Everybody, like, right? Not like we do. Everybody's not going to be like,
well,
"Oh, that guy's great." You're going to look at stuff he's done, and you're going to, but they get the overall view of it, right? Like,
mm-hmm.
and look at stuff like with Picard, like, example, like, he did kill. I mean, he didn't do it for free will, but he did
Mm-hmm.
kill a lot of people. He has made decisions that affected the Federation in a negative way. As much as he's saved the universe, he's had a lot of missions, and not all of them worked out as well for everybody.
Yeah.
You make the best decisions you can, and I kind of like being in a place where you can kind of see a different point of view. Like, that's what I loved about Shaw, is seeing him look at these two heroes, right? We think of them as heroes and go, no,
Yeah.
you're not.
You're not all that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not all that. I was on the other end of what you decided to do and how you did that. And, you should have killed Picard as soon as he turned, right? You can see somebody, see some of them thinking that, like, or, my planet, some of my parents might not have been killed if you had done that, or, whatever. So that's the kind of stuff that we never really get to see, because every time we see a show, they are the best of the best.
Right.
And they go above and beyond their station to save whatever or do the great things that they do. But what about the people that are just
and that's that's kind of what I was trying to get at, is what does it take to get to be those kind of people, and hopefully they'll explore that aspect.
I hope so.
On the last episode, when we talked about the first episode of Picard season 3, we talked about Discovery ending. Do you and I don't recall now, Darrell, do you remember when the final season is supposed to air?
Ooh, next year.
Is it next year?
2024.
So, okay. So, and the reason I ask is because production for this new show, Starfleet Academy, is supposed to start in 2024. And so with a likely debut in 2025. So we get Discovery ending next year, and then follow up, in 2 years with this new show. And since you mentioned Lower Decks, I thought this was interesting. I saw this on Twitter. Tawny Newsome, who plays Mariner Beckett on the animated series Lower Decks, is going to be in the writer's room. She's joining the writer's room for that show.
Oh, cool.
So that's interesting.
Yeah, I love that. I love her. So, I mean, I don't see any problems with any of that.
No.
So I do think like we said, I think if you put Discovery in the same year as, like, close to like the end of the year, if you put it, I don't know if it's going to be that, but if you put that close to the end of the year and then you have it go into Starfleet Academy in the beginning of the next year, it'd be a nice little watch this. This is, follow, the tendrils that go there. Because you think the last season of Discovery is going to be, they're going to rebuild the Federation, meaning that they have warp drive again and they can explore, and that means looking back and seeing a lot of the stuff what went wrong, right? Like, they get to finally visit these other planets and kind of fix stuff if they can and help repair things, or in other places kind of reconnect, because some of these places are like Starfleet. Like, you guys were not there when we, you usually you find a way, and you didn't, and all of these terrible things happened, and all this time where the burn was going on, and there was no one here to help us. We had to figure it out on our own. So you would have to, some of these worlds are not going to think of Starfleet the same after the burn than they did prior to. So, and reconnections with family too.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting, Darrell, 2 years from now, after we've watched a little bit of the new show, to come back to what you were just extrapolating from the description of the show, right? To see how closely it matches up. So I'm going to be I won't remember this conversation at all. But
I won't remember the conversation tomorrow that we had. Right. Today. So.
Okay. Well, so you said just a little bit ago something about our love for Riker, right? And I'm like, based on these two episodes 2 and 3, I don't know, Darrell. We went on and on, at least I did, last time, about episode 1, about how much I love we love Riker in that episode, and I have to say, he came down a notch or two in these episodes, and so I'm curious what you think about that when we get to those points in these, because
Okay.
I was on the edge of my seat, and not in a good way, at one point in episode 3, and I was literally, Darrell, I was yelling at the screen at Riker. So, well, I'll
Wow.
talk about that when we get
Okay.
to it. But shall we jump into episode 2?
Let's do it.
All right, Disengage is the title of the episode, as I said before. And here's a brief synopsis. Again, I just stole this from Memory Alpha. Aided by 7 of 9 and the crew of the USS Titan, Picard makes a shocking discovery that will alter his life forever, and puts him on a collision course with the most cunning enemy he's ever encountered. Meanwhile, Raffi races to track a catastrophic weapon and collides with a familiar ally. So I'm not going to go, just so the listeners know, I'm not going to go through like I did in the first episode, where I basically gave a brief description of the acts themselves. I thought because we're covering 2 episodes,
Yeah.
Darrell and I were just going to give our thoughts as see where the conversation
we
takes
have a
us.
6-hour Patreon episode that you can buy. That's $2,000
Oh
a
boy,
tier.
that'd be nice, wouldn't it?
But
And the cunning enemy, I think that's what it said, that Picard deals with here is Vadic, played by Amanda Plummer, who I think we talked about this last time. Is she the daughter of Christopher Plummer?
did we come to that? You know what? I forgot to actually check.
I think we mentioned her generally.
We did, but I forgot if she was or not.
She a Plummer is back.
Yes, you're right.
On
Christopher Plummer is her father.
Okay. I have to say, I thought she was wonderful in this episode.
Yes.
What was
she?
Yeah. What did you think?
I like this. I like this villain. Like I like,
Mm-hmm.
but she's always been the kind of actor who could just bring out like I don't know, just a weird energy. Like when she does it, and she could she can flip emotions in a second. Like even in what's the movie she did with Tarantino? The first one she did with Tarantino.
Oh, that's what I recognize her from. Okay.
Yes. When she was the when they robbed the diner at the end with and she flips from just being, ooh, baby, they're a couple, so they're talking and like, I love you, blah blah blah, we're gonna get through this, da, da, da. And then on a dime she switches and she's like, I will kill every last one of you if you don't do what we say. And it's
my God,
she's great.
I have been trying to place her this whole time, because at the time of this recording, we're now up to episode 7 of Picard. Right. And every time she's on there, I'm like, what do I know her from? I know I've seen her in things, and obviously I could Google her, but it was just I'm just sitting there watching and not thinking about looking it up. But yeah, that is she kind of plays that character a little bit that she played in that movie that I can't remember the name of right now.
You talk Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction, yes.
This is when two old
classic,
people,
I know.
Yeah, record together.
Oh my God,
can't remember anything.
Yes. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That is amazing. Okay.
Yeah. You want a villain that has all of that range that she has. Mm-hmm. You want somebody like that, because Picard is such a tempered adversary, right? He's always thinking, he's tempered, and when he loses it, that's when crap is going really bad, when he breaks. So you want somebody who's totally not that, and emotional and and all over the place, to kind of give Picard a run for his money, because he's not good at handling that. Mm-hmm. He's not good at that kind of villain. Not when they're smart.
So you agree with what did it say? The most cunning enemy he's ever encountered?
I don't know about the most. We'll see at the end what the plan is.
Right.
Like we could think that, and then you find out, yeah, she was just mad because, he did something like left a planet, or left something behind, or somebody accidentally got killed on a mission or something. We still don't know. Mm-hmm. Like it could be any of those little things. that's the slight that makes her want that makes him want to go after Picard so bad, and it
Yeah.
could be just something silly. I don't know. So
Well, yeah,
hopefully it's good.
and that's kind of the trick of this particular series of episodes, because Darrell and I have watched more recent ones, but we don't want to necessarily talk about stuff that goes on there.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, we're just kind of keeping it as much as we can within the confines of the episodes we're discussing.
We
so
try.
so yeah, we do know more things about what Vadic is about, but there's still room for revelations. So
Yes.
and well, speaking of revelations, we do have we in the teaser we see Jack a little bit more, and we get to see him interacting with other people. I thought that was a great little bit because everything hinges on this character to some degree, because
Right.
he's the focal point for we discover later in the episode, but Vadic is after him. We already know that what they say, Klingons were after them. Oh, the Fenris Rangers and the Klingons, and then Starfleet was after him, and now Vadic. So given the importance of Jack Crusher in this overall narrative, it was really cool to see him be charming in that scene with the Fenris Rangers, trying to deliver medicine to to the people
Bit
of
of a
that world,
rogue.
right? A bit of a rogue, yeah. Not a bad negotiator.
No.
The way that he kind of rope the Fenris Rangers into allowing him to do this stuff. So I found Jack really, like I said, charming. I thought that was a really cool way to get us to be on that character's side, which is contrasted by a scene as we jump into the the present in that scene, or that teaser, where, is that right? I think maybe I'm jumping ahead here. No, I am jumping ahead. There's a scene. Maybe that's even the next episode. This is the problem with doing two episodes in one thing. Yeah, I'm talking about next episode, but I'll just mention it. We see an injured Starfleet officer turning to Jack as he's being helped into sickbay and saying it's all your fault. So that was just that contrast of this guy is the reason that we're in this mess, and there's actually a scene between him and Riker that I want to talk about too.
And we got to remember, he's young, even though he looks older than he is older as an actor. He's supposed to be younger than in what we think. I think that's a problem.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of impressive too. If you a 20-something, a young 20-something, is that good at negotiating people, right? He has a gift. Or at least, as much as his charm will take him, I guess. We'll see. Yeah, there are obviously
I wanted
limits.
the Beverly scene to be like, "You're just like your daddy."
Yeah.
Like, I want that scene.
Speaking of that is the one thing I think that we are missing, even up to episode 7.
Yeah.
There's not enough of Beverly and Jack in the sense of what they've gone through, the two of them, and what that means for Beverly, what that means for Jack. I mean, they're mom and son, and they've been through a lot. But I don't really get a sense of them as mom and son.
Yeah, because it's different. As someone who's come from a single parent home, it was me and my mother against the world too, right? So it's like you have a certain bond when it's, of course you bond with your parents, period, but it's just kind of a special bond when you only have the one parent that has raised you most of your life, which is him. He's had that experience where even though he knows his father exists in the world, he has only been raised by his mother. So there should be more. I do kind of expect him to be a little bit more of a shorthand in terms of there are just ways you talk to your mother when you've been, and they've been alone throughout, this journey of helping worlds and hustling and all that kind of stuff. Like, and that's not clear to me either. Did she co-sign on him doing these hustles?
Right, exactly. She would have to know. She would have to be she was her. It was her idea. That's kind of what I'm
That's the
getting
thing
at.
they haven't really gotten into
Yeah,
yet. Like, what was she? Because she wasn't there when he was doing that. When he was talking to the Rangers, right?
yeah, and it
So
should be basically. I in my head canon, she's the one who's like teaching him how to do that.
you would think that, right? But then we don't get a sense of, or not even a conversation. Like, right,
Yeah,
I don't know.
nothing.
Like
Hmm.
Picard would have a conversation. Like, he is so stiff in terms of his belief system, right?
Right.
Picard, I can't see Picard not saying, Beverly, what happened to you?
You're right. Exactly.
Right? Like
Yes.
when we were together, you were not like, like you didn't skim the rules like that. Like you bent it, of course, to help people, but like you taught our son to do these like what are you doing? Like why did you teach our son to do these things? Like he wouldn't get it because he came from privilege, right?
Mm.
Picard has come from privilege. He's not, and that's why Raffi. That's why I like where Raffi would call him on certain things. It's like because you are so black and white in your viewpoints a lot of times, and sometimes he gets it, but sometimes he doesn't. Right? There are times when he doesn't, and we're going to get that when a certain character comes into the show again, returning. He's so black and white with things, and then he kind of has to be uh, uh, metaphorically kicked on the butt, to kind of be like, you know what? Yeah, I am too rigid in my thoughts. I don't think about the other side of things, like when you don't have and you come up or like it's the spur of the moment thing. Like he's had Starfleet to always be there for him for so many years, right? He's had that sense of command where when he wants something done, it's done. And this is why he flipped out so much when he said that if you don't help the Romulans, then I'm out. And Starfleet was like, then you out. Right. And then he was like, what? How dare you? I'm Picard. Like, how dare you do that? Like, and it broke him for a minute
Mm-hmm.
because of that being that rigid. And he had to and he had to learn, like, you wasted time just being like that because it doesn't work that way. So I really did want to have that conversation where she's saying these are things we had to do to get things done because you know, A, B, and C, had to be accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
But we really don't get that. Yeah.
You would think a guy with a positronic brain now would be able to figure things out a little quicker.
When it comes to women, though, man, like that's the thing. When it comes to love, period, with Picard, he has always had an issue with. I think his issue with being able to commit to someone is that he is so set in his ways that it makes it hard for the other person to kind of to kind of be in the same room with in that space.
Yeah.
Like you can really love somebody, but at the same time, if you can't push or pull, you can't push or pull with your wife, it's not going to work. You have to be able to be like, you know what, I'm not going to get my way this time
Mm.
because it's not worth it in the overall, you know, theme of it's not worth it to do. I want to be happy or do I want to get my way? You can't do that. And Picard has been so much like that in terms of it has to be his way that he would let somebody walk away from him or break up with somebody because he feels that way. And he's done it. We've seen it in TNG. He's broke up with quite a few or turned down quite a few suitors because he was so, and I mean, beautiful and talented and smart and all that stuff. He's turned them down because he's so set in his ways. He almost lost it with his current lady love that
Laris?
he probably already forgot about.
Yeah, yeah.
Because he's not mentioned her at all.
Yeah,
Since
nothing
because
there.
he's so set in his way. But she's different because she's like, you know what? I don't need you either though. Like I got my own thing going on and I'm pretty great. So like he needs that. And that's the thing with Picard. Like that's why he's always been single. I can believe that he's been single this many years.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Rafi earlier, and
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure we get through this stuff because I know I only have you for a limited time today. That scene later in this episode between Rafi and her ex-husband, because we talked a lot about Rafi and her and the actress's ability to ramp up that emotion and whatnot.
Right.
This was the scene I have been missing for about a season and 2 seasons, I'll say, with her and what's going on with her, because she calls on her ex because he runs a bar apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Because she needs an introduction to another one of the gangsters on whatever that planet is, right? But it's that he doesn't. What's his name? I didn't write it down. Whatever his name is.
I forgot his name too.
He just cuts right to it, right? He's like, I thought you to Rafi here. I thought you were wanting to reconnect with our son and asked me for that, but no, you're. Basically, she was there to ask for this other introduction, and he lays it down for her. I can either help you reconnect with our son, or you can get this introduction to this other guy. Choose, right? And then the look on her, and I love the way that how the actress downplays it a little bit, because she just kind of looks down. And she's, you could see that she's struggling with it, but you'd also know that she has to because, that's the plot. But
right.
But that's what I like. It was not this ramped up emotion that we've seen from her going from 3 to 12 in a second. It was really more restrained, and I really appreciated that aspect of that choice on the actress's part.
Yeah. Well, she had. I mean, and it also goes with the story too, because if Raffi is messy, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing about this character. She's messy, and when she deals with people, especially those she loves, she is extremely messy because she gets very emotional about stuff. And you've done this for years. You can't be emotional with him because he's seen your stuff, and there's been issues with you. Like this is the reason why they push you away, because of you cling a little too much.
Well, he even says something about that. He recognizes this
addictive personality.
Yes, exact. This addictive personality where she just dives into this thing and just will not let it go until she's decided that it's done.
And people and dealing with people that have addictive personalities and are constantly having to deal with that addiction, they know when they know that about themselves, they also become addicted to people.
Mm-hmm.
They don't mean to be, but they can often be overbearing, and that is what she's gone through with her son. It's like, at first I was like, wow, that's pretty foul, like to give her that choice, because it's not like she wants to meet this dude to hang out and have a party. She's trying to find a murderer of like hundreds of people. She's trying to save lives.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like she's doing something terrible. And for him to be so rigid and selfish, I think that's also the issue too, right? Her ex-husband is so selfish about everything. Like, it's all about just us, but he's not even thinking about the greater good, that there are people out here trying to kill others. And we're trying to prevent more deaths, and he doesn't even think about it. It's not even a thing in his head.
Yeah, but I kind of understand that. When it comes to your children, and their well-being, and everything else. I mean, there's actually in the next episode, there's some commentary about that. I think that.
I think The Left of Us. Have you watched any of that show? Have you ever watched that show yet?
No.
The Last of Us?
No, not yet.
Okay. Well, the thing about The Last of Us is it gets into the fact of, because of love and a parent's love, you can be selfish. Like, there's always the thing to say, you can't, if you don't have kids, you don't know what it is to be selfless, right? But there's also that other coin where it's, when you do have kids, you don't care about the other stuff.
Exactly.
Especially when they are in jeopardy, right? And that can close your mind to the greater good of things, and make you, and it can make you extremely selfish because you're being selfless for your circle, for the people in your circle.
Well, okay, so let's just get into that part of the episode because, like I said, of time and whatnot. But this is a perfect way to go into back to Jack and Picard, because there's so Vadic has basically given them an ultimatum. They have an hour to hand over the renegade outlaw that is Jack Crusher, because we find out he's maybe stolen some things. He's wanted here, he's wanted there, right? And Shaw wants to just hand him over because they're outside of Federation territory. The regulations are clear. So he says something along those lines, right? So he's going to hand him over. And is this the one where Jack he's gonna beam himself over? Is that the next one? I forget now. But anyway,
well, it kind of flips back and forth. But I mean, it's pretty much he's gonna turn himself in.
Yeah, exactly. And but what happens at the end is that they're on the bridge. Picard's trying to get Shaw to see reason, and Riker resuscitates Beverly and drags her to the bridge.
Yeah.
And there's this wonderful scene between Picard and Beverly. They just look at each other.
Yeah.
And Beverly just kind of closes her eyes a little bit, and Picard now knows. This whole episode he's been denying his.
Yeah, you don't see what I see.
Yeah,
I love Riker when he says
do the math, Jean-Luc. He's your son. How do you not see that? Right, Riker's speaking for us this whole time, right?
Yeah.
And Picard finally accepts what he has been trying to deny himself this whole episode.
Rigid, told you.
Exactly. See, that's kind of why I brought it up, because I thought that was a good observation on your part. And he basically takes over the ship. He's he realized he's my son. Admiral's orders, shields up, and whatnot, right? And then then we get the end of the episode. So it was really cool to see. Like I said, I've been a little critical of the writing on this show in the past, but talking with you now about this, I'm starting to see these threads that are being stitched through the episodes to make these connections that are, even though I may quibble about how they executed it. In the details of it, but the overall ideas are pretty strong.
Yeah, for sure. And Jay is the ex-husband.
Okay,
that we couldn't think of for anything, for nothing. It was bothering me. But yeah, it's such a Picard is so like. His vision is just so tunnel vision about things sometimes, and it's very interesting to see. And Riker can call him on it. Like Riker can be the one that chips, but he doesn't do it too much. But he chips enough.
Well, this might be a good. There's some other things I just want to point out about this episode, and of course, if you have anything that we haven't talked about, but we probably should. This is a good segue to move on to the next episode.
Okay.
There's just a couple things here. Oh no, wait, we got to talk about what they say at the beginning. Raffi collides with a familiar ally, so we get Worf back
finally.
Oh my god, what was your reaction when you first saw Worf on the screen? And we only get to see him just a little bit in that fight scene in the bar. Oh wait, I didn't even talk about Raffi having to take that drug.
Yeah, she gave in to keep her covered.
Exactly. That addictive personality. She will just do it.
I love the gangster pimp daddy.
The Ferengi.
I do.
Sneed.
Like he is. He's the Ferengi that lived in the hood. Like he is not Quark.
Exactly.
This is a Ferengi that has been in them streets.
I wish we had seen a Ferengi like that.
Yes.
On Deep Space Nine.
I know. Yeah, but they couldn't get that past.
No, not like
the
that.
Censors back then. They couldn't get it past it. But oh man, Kira would have kicked his ass.
Yeah. Well, speaking of kicking ass, I mean, we get Worf, and I mean that out of whatever they
pacifist Worf,
the pacifist Worf. But that new Batleth sword type thing, whatever that is.
Gosh,
that's just
so
awesome.
great. I wonder, is he the master in that form of fighting that what was it was in D Space Nine when it came out that remember in the episode where Jadzia had to the life debt one where they had to go avenge
Oh, mm-hmm.
the murder of the children of their children, and she agreed to go on this fight. One of them was a Duras master or something like that. I can't remember what it was called.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
And
sorry.
he walked around with a sword as well. And I wonder if that's if
Is that a callback to that?
yeah, is it a
Yeah.
callback to that? Did he
That's what I
take
thought
on
of.
that's what made me think of it as soon as I saw him with the sword.
Yes, yes. And you know, he's it's a different looking Worf. I mean, he's
Yes.
obviously older. He's got white hair everywhere.
Hmm.
But that's probably the best I've ever seen Worf look in the entire run of Star Trek.
Yeah.
You know, part of that's just the actor's age and whatnot. But I thought they
Well,
did.
Michael Dorn is really he went really health conscious after over the years. Like
Okay, that explains.
he lost weight, he went completely vegan. He's a lot of natural health and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like so his even the like I watched an interview with him and it's like he also the actor went on a spiritual kind of journey over the years and he
Okay.
kind of went through some things. So he's got that Worf like he's always meditating like kind of like that feeling of peace kind of
Mm-hmm.
that he sounds like that when they're talking to him. When Michael Dorn is talking, he sounds the same way. So it's funny how they both have the character's gone through it, and in real life Michael Dorn has gone through a change over the years.
Yeah. Well, and that's probably one of the more interesting aspects of the show so far. I mean, everybody has changed
Yes.
over time, right? And the actors are bringing something new and different because of their experience, their age, and all that. But it feels like Worf is the one that is, well, maybe Beverly, but we haven't really gotten a whole lot with her.
No, not yet
At this point. And I'm drawing on the next episode as well for Worf, but we get a sense for him that he actually has gone through something and has come out on the other side a different kind of person. He is not the unbendable Worf that we had seen in the Next Generation past.
No.
So I love that.
Yeah, I do too, because it hurt him, like being that, because he was also like Picard in terms of being really rigid.
Yeah, that's true.
He's lost a lot because of it.
Mm-hmm.
He was almost a freaking scoundrel. He was the bad guy in DS9 over if you rewatching the seasons when he came on, like after We're the Warrior, he went on a downslide of just being just a jerk with people. Like like he actually joined a MAGA like outfit on
Risa, is that the one?
On Risa, yeah, because their way of life. He was going through it. Like there was a sense of like, what are they trying to do with this character? To the point where, wow, I'm not liking him anymore. Like, what did you do to my Worf? I don't like what he's becoming. And but if you use that, like you have people that have watched the show and you use that, and you kind of say he's gone through so much. He lost his wife. He looks like he never remarried. It took him years to reconnect with his son because he was a terrible father.
Oh yeah.
Like the woman that he did really, the other woman he loved before Jadzia, he also lost because of being rigid. All that time he lost with her before she was murdered. Kalar, and so all these things, if you think about it, you go through all these years and then you sit back and go, what do I have to show for it? Like trying to be the best Klingon, but what did it give me? Did it make me happy?
Well,
trying to do this?
He's kind of like Spock in that way, right? Because he's a person of two worlds, and he's always there's that struggle between the human parents that raised him and his Klingon ancestry and all that. So, but what we see here in this first appearance, after he saves Rafi from the gangsters,
Right.
I told you, do not engage, and it's that, Worf was always the big gruff strongman type on the show, but
Mhm.
there was always this bit of playfulness with him, a bit of comedy that they brought to the character, that Michael Dorn brought to the character, and that's still here, and that's such a great contrast to the warrior, the Klingon warrior thing, and so I'm glad that that's still there. We get a lot more of that as as the episodes go
Duhar
on.
Master is what he would be.
Okay, yeah,
if he's doing that.
Yeah. Some of the other things, real quick, and then we should move on to the next episode. Let's see here. I love the way earlier in the episode where the Shrike uses a tractor beam to throw the Helios at
Crazy,
the Titan.
right?
That was cool.
I like that.
The shuttle that Picard and Riker docked docked with the Helios. That was, we find out in the teaser actually that it was named the Savick. And according to the Star Trek Picard logs, the character Savick eventually rose to the rank of captain and commanded the first USS Titan.
Nice. Yeah.
I don't know, if that's just history that they retconned in, but whatever, that's fine. Speaking of history, we find out that the Crushers are part of the Mariposas, which was an organization that was talked about at the end of the previous season, where Guinan tells Picard that Rios and his new life mate Ramirez founded it in the early 21st century. So that's a nice connection between the two eras. And then finally, when the ops officer on the Titan is listing all of the weapons that they scanned on the Shrike, one of the things that they mentioned were the isolytic burst warheads, which is a reference to Star Trek Insurrection, because the Sona used those. There was some mention of that. So again, all those little tidbits that they're throwing at us, and just usually minor ways, but I love that. I love discovering those kinds of things.
Yeah, it's always great.
Okay, so let's move on to episode 3, 17 seconds. So this is the one that I liked more and less at the same time, but we'll get to that. Synopsis for this is: Picard grapples with an explosive, life-altering revelation while the Titan and her crew try to outmaneuver a relentless Vadic in a lethal game of nautical cat and mouse. Meanwhile, Rafi and Worf uncover a nefarious plot from a vengeful enemy Starfleet has long since forgotten. And the notable cast member for this, and we have seen him since episode 1. This is Chad Lindbergh as Ensign Foster. I don't actually know that if he's actually named in the episode, but that's his name in the credits. He is the guy that we saw when Picard and Riker came onto the Titan. He's part of the honor guard or whatever you call it. And Riker looks at him. Remember, I said, I mentioned that look. I'm like, what is about this guy?
Yeah, something's not right.
Yeah, and we see him a few times over these last two other episodes.
Right.
And there's something else about him. Obviously, we'll get to that. So 17 seconds is the title, and that's a reference to a story that Riker tells Picard earlier. So they do a flashback, and the two guys are celebrating the birth of Riker's son. And Riker tells him about there was trouble with the birth, and he got the call, sort of like how Kirk got the call to get down to engineering in Star Trek II. But it was Riker referred to it as a 17-second turbolift ride, the longest ride of his life. And this is, we talked about, the selfishness of parents. He also made the comment about how he's talking about his newborn son and how precious and vulnerable he is. And he says he would burn the world to save his son.
Yeah.
As a parent, I totally, completely understand and agree with that, right?
Yeah.
So we do see Deanna again here for the first time this season. And it's just a message, saying, "Hey, I've been dealing with this kid for I don't know how long it was, but he's projectile vomiting and whatnot." What do you think of Deanna's appearance in this?
I mean, I wish they'd give her more.
Right? They're still doing the same thing with Deanna that
Yeah,
they've
it's like,
always done.
why is she being just the foil complaining wife, right? Like, is that a trope we can get out of?
Please,
Like,
yes.
can't you just do where she can sense him, right? They read each other's thoughts. Like, you would think they could come up with a little better interaction with the two of them, like, or even if it was, listen, Picard is going on and on about the old times, and I need to get back to my kids. So, Deanna, I'm gonna need you to call me and pretend I gotta go back.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm so excited about my kid, right? I want to go back, right? And he doesn't want to say that to Picard, but he just doesn't want to make him feel bad, and then have a little bit of like a little thing, after that where he goes back home, and then he says to Hannah, like, she's like, "You're not going to be using me as an excuse to get out of stuff, okay? Like, you should have just told him that you wanted to be with your kid." And because it could have been a little background on that, like, but I just don't want my friend to feel bad because he's never had children.
Mm-hmm.
There is that assumption, right? Like, with people that are parents, that you might make your friend feel bad because they don't have kids, kind of thing. Like, there is that kind of when your friends have kids and you don't, they're new parents and you're not. You don't want to be, you don't want to hurt each other's feelings. That's kind of always the case. And they could have done a nice little scene with that, which could have showed Deanna better in a better light than that. Because I just don't see her being the one to complain and be like, you better come home because I got this crying kid, and you better come home right now.
Yeah.
Like, it just seemed weird. This is season 1 writing for TNG.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's for sure.
Yeah.
What isn't season 1 TNG writing is the scene. I'm gonna cut right to, because this is one of the more powerful scenes of this episode, which is the confrontation, and it is a confrontation.
Oh yeah,
between Picard and Beverly, and the way, and I have Patrick Stewart, I think, is one of the great actors of our generation, and I have felt that he's just kind of phoning in his performances in the last 2 seasons of Picard.
Yeah.
But this one, the way that Picard comes into that conversation with Beverly, it's like I said, it's confrontation. They're going to talk about what they had not had a chance to talk about, or he didn't have a chance to talk about. Jack and being a father and not being allowed to be a father, all that kind of stuff, right? The anger.
It's coming in hot.
Oh my God. I have never seen Picard behave this way.
Right.
Well, maybe in First Contact, but that's a different situation. I was just really impressed with that scene.
Yeah, only his brother could make him that mad.
Oh, that's
like then.
Very true. Very true. Yeah. But yeah, this is a totally different way. And so what did you think of Beverly's rationalizations for keeping Jack away from Picard, at least at first?
I think she had a total valid point. I think they both were right and both were wrong. I think, like, she should have told them. She should have told them. Like, even if it was after he was born and he got settled, and like, she was just making excuses not to. But I could see her. She was very overbearing parent with Wesley when they wrote her in the beginning.
Yeah.
So I could even understand if she came up and straight up said to him, "Listen," because the same thing happened with Kirk. Like, we had the same kind of situation where it was like, "Listen, I want my kid. Like, I lost a kid. Like, I'll never know when I'll see Wesley again, or if I'll ever see Wesley again. I want this kid. Like, I get it. I get why she was, after she had him, like, imagine you have a kid and you think there might be a time where he just goes off with the other parent, and you don't know what'll happen if that, like, people have died around Picard a lot over the years. I could see her. I could see why she kind of felt that she needed to do that
Yeah.
with him, because he's not going to leave. He's not going to leave Starfleet.
Well, that and she makes that point where it's like, he needs that in his life, that adventure, that excitement, that involvement. And he's got a target on his back as well. And so
all the time.
So yeah, I totally get that. But as he says, you made the choice for me.
Mm-hmm. And it was wrong. She was wrong to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like that scene. I kind of wished it would have, I want more. I want more of things like that.
That's the problem with shorter episodes.
Yeah. But during that conversation, Beverly tells Picard that when Jack was old enough, she encouraged him, go see your dad, and he chose not to. And then that's when we get even a different kind of anger from Picard. He leaves that conversation, goes out into the hallway where Riker and Jack are. And this is, I think I mentioned this earlier, but Riker is telling Jack that people have to believe in why they're protecting you, because again, Jack gets some glances from Starfleet personnel on the ship that are not friendly, and so Riker's trying to give him that advice, right? Which I appreciate. I thought that was a really cool way to address the whole idea of the importance of what Jack is to this overall story.
Right.
But then, like I said, Picard comes out, the look he gives Jack, and then immediately is like, Riker, walk with me. And they walk off, and a dejected Picard, and I put this in a dejected Picard is a pissy Picard. Cause oh my God.
Well, yeah, listen, he could be petty.
Yeah.
There are times when he's, even in TNG, when he's been dejected in an argument and he's just been a little snitty. But you had Deanna to be like, I sense what really's going, what's really going on, and she can kind of say things to him that no one else can get away with. But you don't have her.
Exactly. If only she were there with Riker.
Yeah,
and giving that. Oh yeah, but then we wouldn't get these nice little bits of emotionality, which is the most we've gotten from Patrick Stewart in this pretty much this entire 2.5 year run, or 2.5 season run.
Yeah, the problem also is you can't you'd even want to be like, well, wouldn't it be great if he could call Deanna and talk to her? But then if you did that, then he'd be like, oh yeah, and by the way, could you tell Starfleet that someone's trying to kill us in the nebula, and send some backup? You can't do that. Yeah. So we can't get those scenes.
Well, and he even goes so far to when he tells Riker, he owes Captain Shaw an apology. We put all these people in danger unnecessarily, and I'm like, wait a minute, wasn't helping Beverly enough? Wasn't that enough for you to go on this little trip? He's that ticked off at her still?
Yeah, that's her. That's what I mean by being petty.
Yeah.
He totally, you can tell that was purely, he was hurt. She hurt him, and he didn't know how to respond to that emotional hurt like that. And that's why he acted that way.
Yeah.
He's almost like, I'm just being a doddering old fool. I should have never did this, like when Kirk was saying to when they had, when the first confrontation between the Reliant and the Enterprise, and he's like, go on, you should go on
quoting regulations,
Starfleet quoting regulations, because I've just been a dawdling old fool being so lax, because he left himself open to emotion, right? How dare he be human? And that's what Picard is. That's, he went, how dare I?
And this is probably the most human we've ever seen this character.
Yeah. And he's mad about it.
Yeah.
He's mad at himself for doing it.
Yeah. While I may have quibbles with the way that they're portraying it, I love that and this is kind of a general comment about Picard season 3 and maybe Star Trek in general. It's like the Next Generation series was kind of this antiseptic view of the future, because there are no conflicts, people didn't curse. We get a lot of that in these episodes. But I don't care how long humanity goes through time. We don't change that much. I don't. It's a wonderful ideal, but the fact, the people don't change
It's
that.
still nature.
Yes, it's a human nature, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I like how they're exploring that more.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, at one point, because I think this is relevant to where we should go here next, is Captain Shaw gets injured and transfers command over to Riker.
Why do you think he does that? I was thinking about that.
Well, I think Shaw is just like way over his head, and in a way he's kind of pissy because he's like, you guys got us into this, even though I clearly made the choice. Both, and I didn't mention this earlier. Seven kind of manipulates him or persuades him to be the hero and intervene at the beginning of the previous episode. And that causes all this stuff to happen. People are dying. His ship's damaged. He's got blood coming out of his mouth.
Yeah, you talked me into being a cowboy, and I didn't save the day. Look what happened to me.
His total viewpoint on Picard and Riker are completely validated in this moment, right? Yes. And so he's like, okay, fine, you asshole, you get us out of this.
And I think part of it is I am scared. I'm crapping my pants. This is not stuff that I've dealt with. The worst thing I've dealt with is Worf 209, 259, and I still haven't recovered from that.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah.
And there was a comment he made earlier too in the previous episode about because even though we're kind of ragging on Shaw a little bit, but he gets the best lines. At one point he says, "We are essentially cornered in space, which has no corners."
Right.
I love that. I love Shaw, and I also don't like Shaw. So, but we get the commands transferred, and then so to get out of that current situation, I love this bit where Riker's like, "Okay, do this with the photon torpedo," and he's about to explain the rest of it, and Picard just does it.
Yeah.
Right, and then they phaser the photon torpedo, which shoots or the concussive blast shoots the Shrike away so they can get away. And then I love this little bit. We talked about, the absence of Picard's number one, his dog. Mm-hmm. And now we have number one back again in a way because Picard turns to Riker and says, "Maybe it's about time you started calling me number one."
Yeah, we got our moment. All right. That's it. That's what we wanted. Yeah. We thought or so we thought.
Yes, exactly. Right. Okay. So let's see. Before we get to that, we should probably talk about. Oh yeah. So then a little bit later, they're trying to get out, right? Riker's trying to get out. This is the point where I'm like, oh my God, I can't stand this episode. I can't stand Riker because all he's trying to do is get them out of the nebula. And Vadic uses that portal weapon. And so they ends up she throws that portal opening in front of the Titan, and then it opens still within the nebula, right? But they do that at least 2 times. Is it 3? I think it's 2 times at the beginning, and there's something at the end, right?
Yeah, 2 times, and then he was like, "Come on, we gotta do more than."
And that whole sequence, Darrell, this is where I started yelling at the screen. I'm like, Riker, do something, anything besides moving the ship forward. It was very frustrating.
Not used to this anymore. I know. This is a guy who's not been in the game.
I understand that. I to a point I agree.
They are playing a little bit with the timeline of when he lost his son. Don't you feel like they're kind of being like he just lost his son yesterday? As opposed to it's almost like they were like, forget what happened in Picard season 1. Forget those 2 episodes you saw in that with the 2 of them, where he kind of has dealt with the grief. Meaning you never get you never ever get over your grief. You're always going to be
and
dealing with it.
That's why that didn't really didn't really bump up against that because of that, and the fact that we opened the episode with the 17 seconds, when he was born.
But but I mean, the way he's acting in this kind of makes me think, did you stop going on missions after your son died?
Well, yeah, you're right. That seems a little fast and loose.
That seems a little fast and loose, right?
But again, it's like ripping off the Band-Aid. I think that whole bit of Picard and his son, and now being in the situation where he's got all these young people that Riker's got to save. I accepted it, even though, yeah, I agree. You'd think that he would have dealt with it a little bit more, that perhaps than
well, at least
we're
being
seeing.
Able to command in a battle.
Yes. If nothing, yeah, exactly. If nothing
he seemed
else,
almost scared.
Very hesitant. Yes.
Yes. I saw fear in his eyes.
Yeah, yeah.
That is not something we're used to
with Riker.
With Riker.
Well,
right?
and that's part of the problem too, is that we've seen him as a second in command for many, many years, and so and he's had this career as a captain that we've never seen. I mean, I know you've read the novels,
but even the times, I read the novel, but even the times we've seen him when he had to go up against Picard, he took it better than that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well,
you know what I mean?
But there is that they touch on this, I think, a little bit too. And obviously, you just mentioned what happens in Star Trek too. When you get older,
yes,
your perspective on things change, right? And so,
let me tell you, driving at night is a different experience,
right? Yeah, I know.
Than it used to be. You didn't think twice about it, but now it's like, ooh, do you really need to go to the store at 8? Do you really need to go? Could we wait till tomorrow to go? I don't know if I really want to go.
Well, and so like I said, Riker, do something, right? And
Yeah.
he's got an entire bridge crew, and we've seen this so many times in Star Trek and so many different versions of Star Trek, where the captain's like, "Okay, give me some options."
Yeah. Well, this is Wrath of Khan again, where you have a kind of like they play fast and loose.
Sure.
You kind of have an inexperienced crew. In these situations, you kind of have an inexperienced crew. You have an old captain, right, that hasn't been out there doing this stuff in a little while. So they're playing on that, right? Like
yeah.
He's like he's almost feels like he's a bumbling fool to himself, not us seeing that, but to himself, he's like, this is not. I shouldn't be doing this. And we all know you got it in you. It's just that you got to reach the point
exactly
where you can do it.
But it's like, this is one of those TV tropes where the stars of the show have to be the ones that figure everything out, right? Because
of course.
we get Jack. Although I like this about them showing this about Jack, because he's in sick bay. They bring in Shaw, and Shaw's basically saying, "How are they finding us?" And Jack looks down at all the blood trail of them bringing in Shaw, and he gets an idea. He gets an inspiration from that, and then from there he discovers that through helping, or with Seven's help, they discover a leak. The ship's been sabotaged, and
Michael did this in Wrath of Khan again. Michael helped with Genesis a little bit. Remember, like he gave some advice on how to deal with Genesis on the ship in Wrath of Khan. It wasn't a lot, but Kirk's son.
Yes.
I'm looking at it. I'm like, are they really playing with they're really going with the Wrath of Khan?
I think they're really borrowing heavily from Wrath of Khan in this.
Yeah.
So, okay. Like I said, it's a trope, give Jack something to do.
Right.
But it's like, where's the chief engineer? Where's the science officer? Anyway, it's a minor quibble.
No, you're right. You're right. And they did this, but again, like they did the same thing in Wrath of Khan. So I'm like, they probably they probably were like, I don't care. We're gonna do Wrath of Khan, damn it, because I'm in charge. And that's what I want, and this is what's gonna happen, and that's why we got him, someone who has no at all regard for Starfleet in any positive way. Making decisions on figuring out how to do this stuff. It's like, what? You don't even get Seven really figured. Like, it's like, Seven, you should know this. Like, I kept wanting him to call Seven to the bridge to be like, to help him. Like I would have loved to have seen a Riker 7
Exactly.
uh,
Yes. But
conversation on leading
but
the show.
but instead we get Jack and Seven, which fine.
No, it's fine.
And
But
this is where we get Ensign Foster, and I think I was hinting at it. I knew there was something about this guy, Darrell, because he ends up being the saboteur.
yep,
And
just have a tall.
and not only just a saboteur,
Uh-huh.
but as I watched this episode, speaking to the listeners here, right after that, well, I asked Darrell if he'd watched it first because I didn't want to spoil anything just in case. I'm like, changelings? Really? So
Yeah.
you last episode when we were discussing episode 1, you talked about the nubbins in the neck, those creatures from the conspiracy episode.
Right.
And while we haven't gone through the entire season yet, it seems that the big bad of the season are the changelings. So what?
Yeah.
What
I think they did that on purpose of trying to make you because they kept saying conspiracy with Beverly in the first episode.
So you think it was just a feint
to give you a feint to make you like maybe it's that, and then boom, no, it's changelings. I was fine with. I mean, I loved the fight in the Dominion like that, and it's like nothing's clean because that was a ridiculous and like to a war, it's really not over. Like so just because Odo went back into the Great Link, he told everybody everything's cool. Like you've been telling these people have been thinking we have to kill, we have to take over, we have to destroy because these evil solids will, have done all these horrible things to us over the years. And just because you jump in the water and share some experiences of you being with a couple of humans for a few years, because remember, these are long-lived beings, right? They've been out here in the world for we don't even know their lifespan, right? They didn't even say. So all of that means that all of them are going to be like, okay, they're our friends now. It's all good. No,
exactly.
No way.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that aspect, how they're exploring, and we find out more about this a little bit actually in the next act because, and this is a nice thing. So we see this introduction of the changelings through Jack's interaction with Ensign Foster, and then we get a scene in the next act between Rafi and I almost said Odo, Worf, who references a friend from the Great Link, who's obviously Odo. And we get a little bit more about the changelings and how there is a rogue faction who are basically terrorists.
Of course.
And so that's how we get that revelation. But before we get too far ahead, so we see Foster attacks Jack, and Jack is in that room where whatever this gas is that will kill Jack.
Mm-hmm.
And but as he's basically dying, he hears something and sees something. And this is the new thing about Jack. I was like, what the hell is going on with Jack?
Yeah, this is throwing me off. I'm still not sure.
So I actually had to turned on the closed captioning when I was rewatching this episode because I couldn't quite make out what. So Jack is hearing Seven talk to him. And then he sees Seven walk up to him, and what he sees behind her is these tendrils,
right,
that are growing on the walls and stuff. And then she is saying, "Connect the branches." And then after that, he sees this red door, a vision of a red door I think it starts to open in that scene, and then. Seven actually does save him, and we'll get to that in a second. Takes him to sickbay essentially. So yeah,
right.
Spoilers. We see that a little bit more in future episodes, so we'll talk about that. But it's like, what the heck is this?
I still don't get it.
Yeah. That's an interesting mystery, and I'm trying to. I've been searching my brain for any kind of memory of something like this in Star Trek episodes I've seen. And I can't really think of anything.
Me either, because not even the Great Link, it didn't.
No.
When Odo had visions or whatever, when they were calling him, like they never showed it.
Yeah.
They always implied it. He said it. He had to say it. Like, I can feel them calling me. He would say it. but they never had it that he had visions of
Yeah. Yeah.
the Great Link.
So, wow. That is probably the most intriguing new thing that they've thrown out so far. Like I said, Seven takes Jack to sickbay. Picard gets that call that Riker got so many years ago, that Kirk also got so many years ago, right?
Yeah.
And the turbo lift ride. So I don't know if you did this, Darrell, but I did. I counted, and it is about literally 17 seconds
Oh wow!
in that scene.
Count.
So I thought that was a really cool thing that they did.
Wow. We got a Star Trek nerd running that show.
Right? Yeah. And then we get, yes, so we're at the end of this episode. And this is the next big conflict that I wanted to get your reaction to. So Picard this entire time has been telling Riker, we need to engage them. We need to fight them. And Riker's, no, my mission is get this ship and this crew back home safely.
Right.
And again, this is where I was yelling at the screen. Dude, Riker, just do something. And so then this is the third time that the portal weapon is used. And Riker says, fire everything we've got. And this is just another quibble, Darrell. Mm-hmm. Everything they've got is 4 torpedoes. Really?
Know, right? Yeah.
But anyway, so because Riker has much like Shaw was persuaded by Seven, Riker has been persuaded by Picard to actually engage them. But Vadic turns it against them. And the ship gets hit by the Titan is hit by its own torpedoes, and they lose warp drive. They start falling into the nebula. And then Riker says to Picard, and this was actually kind of chilling, even though I have a problem with it. Remove yourself from the bridge. You've just killed us all.
Yeah. That was the words of a scared parent.
Yeah.
Instead of someone who's, looking at the whole situation, you lose your mind. Even for my stepkids, something happens to them, I'm like, I'm like, I'm a flip out. Like
yeah. Well, and then he's mad at himself too.
Right. That's the thing, right? You're mad at yourself for not protecting them, like not knowing what to do in the situation. He's mad at himself for not knowing what to do to protect these kids, but at the same time, he had to lash out at somebody, and Picard was, you're making me be that man that runs around, being an adventurer, and and look what it got me.
Well, which is contrast that to episode 1 where Riker's like he was kind of getting off on the whole adventure thing and enjoying himself, right? And now things are a little too real for him. Yeah.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah, it's different with, having, again, that's why it feels like they're playing with the timeline of when he lost his kid. Because if they didn't do what they did in the first season and it was a little bit more coherent, I would understand if Riker, after he lost his son, said, "The hell with Starfleet, I'm out," and retires. I get that. Like, I would totally understand him doing that.
Yeah.
Totally understand it. And then when he goes out with him on in this mission and this happens, I get it. Like this, yeah, of course he would not want to engage because he's still feeling that pain like that. Like I get it. Like it's just that they're just fuddly with the timelines with this and the other seasons that it's just throwing me off a little bit. Because I'm thinking like, this has been years since this has happened, and he still stayed in Starfleet, and then he retired.
Well, I know, watching future episodes, they do touch on that a little bit with Riker. So I'm looking forward to our discussion on that.
Yeah.
But I think Darrell, we have covered pretty much everything. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on that we haven't for these 2 episodes?
I think we kind of hit all the beats for this.
Oh,
I'm okay.
I didn't say one thing. I'll just say about Raffi and Worf. This is This is the most 2 things. This is the most I've enjoyed Raffi in 2+ seasons, and this is the most I've enjoyed Worf is the most it's the most interesting I've ever found that character.
Oh, they had how many years to find something for him to do? Because this is because this has been the problem with Worf. They really, when they got him for DS9, they first two episodes, yes, they had a big conflict, the whole thing with the Klingons, the breaking of the ketamine cords. But after that, they really didn't know what to do with him.
Yeah,
they didn't have I don't think they had a long a long thought out plan of this is where we're going to take this character. I think they were kind of making it up as it went along in that season, and then eventually we got to the next season. They kind of knew what they wanted to do. They kept him on the Defiant, and they used him as being doing more patrols and tactical and all that kind of stuff. But at first, they didn't know what to do with Worf. So. This is a plan. This is what happens when you have a plan for your characters. That's not what Picard season 1 and 2 felt like.
Yeah. Well, and seeing Picard being isolated from Beverly, from Jack, from Riker, what's going on with Jack, Riker too, for that matter. There's what really is going on with Vadic and stuff that we know because we watched the episodes, but it's stuff coming up in the next couple episodes,
right.
Which that's the plan. We'll cover the next 2 episodes as well and go from there. So
a lot happens in those next 2.
Yes.
So next day when we planned that day, I'm not doing any other shows.
Plan more time.
Yes.
All right.
Because we got to get into this.
Yes, exactly. And like I said, Darrell has to go because of other commitments. So, Darrell, you're at the Taylor Network. Oh, wait, I forgot already. TaylorNetworkPodcast.com.
Yes, if I remember right, because I forget myself.
Well, it'll be in the show notes at the very least if people want to reach out. And also, you're on Twitter at the
Voice 123.
The Voice 123. That's right, and also the Taylor Network, right?
Yes,
is that
also there too? Yeah.
Like I said, show notes. Those links are there. Reach out to Darrell. He's the far better Star Trek fan than I am, but
no, I'm not.
So anyway, Darrell, this has been a joy, and I can't wait to talk about the next 2 episodes of Star Trek Picard.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to those 2 other episodes. We got to plan a little sooner because I'm chomping at the bit to talk about a certain returning character.
Yes. All right. With that, we're done. Thank you for listening, and we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.